I had enough money to take the whole club to South Padre for a week-long drunk, and that's what we did. We went and we bought out a liquor store, and we bought out a teacher, gave him and his family an expense-paid vacation, and we went down for this week-long party. And I just remember as I'm looking at all of our friends and we're getting drunk and my girlfriend's there and we have our own room, and I'm just thinking, this is empty. Get back home after that. Talk with my girlfriend. We've realized that we've been way too physical. We're not even friends, and so we said, why don't we try this friend thing? And so we decided that we were going to go to this. We were going to go out with our friends that night, and we end up kind of at the same party. And as I get there, you know, she's kind of talking with this other guy that I just can't stand, and I've got an ego the size of, you know, a football field, and so we start playing quarters because I want the party to center around me, and so I get everybody together and we're playing this drinking game, and before long I've gotten pretty trashed. I'm pretty drunk, and I'm looking over and she's talking with this guy, and I just want to punch his lights out, and instead, I decide I'm just going to take a walk. I start walking back, and I really begin having this dialogue with God. I just begin saying, you know, Lord, my life is a mess, and I'm empty here. No avenue that I'm trying seems to be bringing any kind of fulfillment or peace in my life. And so the next morning is Easter Sunday. It's like the one Sunday of the year we go to church, and I'm going to be coming home very late and very drunk, and I'm like, what do I do? And so I begin starting to walk home. I get to kind of the edge of the subdivision, and I just sit down on the sidewalk, and I say, God, this is a mess. I just can't even do this anymore. I say, if you will get me out of the mess that I'm in right now, then I'll give my life to you. And just about as soon as I get those words out, a friend of mine coming home for Easter Sunday from the University of Texas, I mean, there hasn't been anybody driving by, sees me sitting on this sidewalk. He pulls over and he stops and he's like, Jeff, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm drunk and lost. Will you take me home? And he's like, yeah, I will. Hop in the car. And I'm home about 12:30, have my keys. I get in, no questions asked. The next morning is Easter Sunday, and we're in church. And our pastor is preaching on the power of the resurrection, and what a difference maker that is. And I remember sitting there, and the Lord, through His Spirit, begins to speak to me, and He's like, Jeff, what about last night? I was like, oh, God. And I said, you know, if I follow through on this, it's going to mean some real dramatic change in my life. And he's like, yeah, I know that. And he says, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, you know, that could have all been a set of coincidences. You know, it could have just all been serendipity and everything just falling perfectly. And the Lord speaks to me as Jeff. He goes, if you argue your way out of this one right now, it's going to be a long time until you find your way back to me. And there in that moment, just something snapped, something clicked, and I realized that this God that I'd always thought was so distant, this God that you know, that I didn't think really cared about me, I realized He was as close as some drunk kid's prayer in the back of a subdivision. And it was at that moment, you know, that I surrendered my life to Jesus.